All right, welcome everyone to the Greater Exodus Part 1. These are hour-long teachings, so we're going to get right into it and try to be done by 2 o'clock. This is Shabbat on the Gregorian calendar. It is, and I did not update this calendar, by the way, so we'll turn it sideways. On the Gregorian calendar, it's October 24th, 2015, and this is the pre-session. Greater Exodus Part 1. And if you haven't talked about, we're not talking about the first Exodus that came out of Egypt. We're talking about the greater Exodus that happens, that's even greater, if you can imagine, than was mentioned in the Scriptures. Thus Jeremiah 33:3, our theme scripture. Thus says Yahweh, call out to me and I will answer you. I will tell you great things, hidden things of which you are unaware. And also for the Greater Exodus, our theme scripture for the Greater Exodus teachings is Jeremiah 33:7-8. I will cause the captives of Yehudah and the captives of Israel to return, and I will build them up as I did at first. I will cleanse them from all their sins through which they offended me, and will pardon all their sins through which they offended and rebelled against me. All right, today we'll cover some of the scriptures concerning the greater Exodus found throughout the writings of the prophets, Nevi'im in Hebrew. That's be Yeshayahu, that's Isaiah in Hebrew, Yirmiyahu, that's Jeremiah in Hebrew, and Zechariah, that's Zechariah in Hebrew. Elohim is smarter than we are. He has a plan. We're going to be going through lots and lots of scriptures today, so just bear with me. We're going to be reading whole prophecies, so not just a verse or two here and a verse or two there. So here's the first one, Isaiah 55:1-8. All you who are thirsty, come to the water. You without money, this is the prophecy. Come, buy and eat. Yes, come, buy wine and milk and wine without money. It's free. Why spend money for what isn't food, your wages for what doesn't satisfy? Listen carefully to me, and you will eat well. You will enjoy the fat of the land. Open your ears and come to me. Listen well, and you will live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, the grace I assured David. I have given him as a witness to the peoples, a leader, a lawgiver for the peoples. You will summon a nation you do not know, and a nation that does not know you will run to you for the sake of Yahweh your Elohim, the Holy One of Israel, who will glorify you. Seek Yahweh while he is available. Call on him while he is still nearby. Let the wicked person abandon his way, and the evil person his thoughts. Let him return to Yahweh, and he will have mercy on him. Let him return to our Elohim, and he will freely forgive. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways, says Yahweh. All right, as high as the sky, Yeshayahu 55:9-13, continuing. As high as the sky is above the earth, are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For just as rain and snow fall from the sky and do not return there, but water the earth, causing it to bud and produce, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so it is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me unfulfilled, but will accomplish what I intended, and cause to succeed what I sent it to do. Yes, you will go out with joy. You will be led forth in peace. As you come, the mountains and hills will burst out into song. This is as we're coming back. And all the trees in the countryside will clap their hands. Cypresses will grow in place of thorns, and myrtles will grow instead of briars. This will bring forth, this will bring fame to Yahweh as an eternal, imperishable sign. When we go back to the land, it's going to be an eternal, imperishable sign for everyone. Those who believe and those who don't believe as well. All right, so the way this works is I give you the main points I want you to get out of the verses we read, the prophecy and whatever. And so this is what I want you to get out of these bullet points. And then we're going to read that verse so you can see that it really did say what I said here. Salvation is for all who will come. Israel is in exile, meaning today. There are more people whom Elohim will gather. So Yeshayahu, Isaiah 56:6-8, and the foreigners who join themselves to Yahweh, do you feel like a foreigner? To serve him, to love the name of Yahweh, and to be his workers. All who keep Shabbat and do not profane it, and hold fast to my covenant, Them I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be accepted on my altar, for my house will be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Yahweh Elohim says, He who gathers Israel's exiles, yet there are others I will gather besides those gathered already. What is good news? Who or what is Zion? Zion is how you would pronounce it or spell it in Hebrew and with English letters. And pronounce it Zion. Zion. Salvation is to the ends of the earth. Isaiah, Yeshayahu 52, 7 through 10. How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, proclaiming shalom, bringing good news of good things, announcing salvation, and saying to Zion, Your Elohim is king. Listen, your watchmen are raising their voices, shouting for joy together, for they will see before their own eyes Yahweh returning to Zion. Break out into joy. Sing together, you reigns of Jerusalem. Is that better? It's a little bit loud. Jerusalem. I just turned on the mic here. Break out into joy. Sing together, you reigns of Jerusalem, for Yahweh has comforted his people. By the way, but Melissa, if the other way is better, let me know, and I'll tell you. Oh, okay. All right. For Yahweh has comforted his people. He has redeemed Jerusalem. Yahweh has bared his holy arm in the sight of every nation, and all the ends of the earth will see the salvation of our Elohim. All the ends of the earth will see the salvation of our Elohim. Let's talk about this word for a second, Zion, what it's referring to. Zion. Everybody say, are you a Zionist or this or that? What we're talking about, what Scripture is referring to there, is the political, earthly kingdom, heavenly, all whatever you want to call it, when Mashiach is reigning from the land. It won't be called Israel. It won't be called Judah. It'll be called Zion, or Zion in English. This is what it's talking about, and you'll get more of a feel for what's happening in Zion, and with Messiah reigning and our Father residing in Jerusalem at the temple. All right. Continuing, those who are the islands and distant nations, Israel, who is the servant and what is the mission? He is to restore the tribes and bring back Israel. This is who the servant is, Mashiach. A light for the nations, Gentiles. By the way, in Hebrew, the word Gentiles and nations is the same word. So you can use them interchangeably at any point in time. There is no Gentiles or Jews or whatever. It's either you're of the covenant and of the kingdom, and or you are of the nations or of the Gentiles. And so there's no such thing as a Christian, Gentile Christian. Okay? Either you are part of the kingdom, you are part of Yah's, Elohim's people, or you're not. Okay. So here's what it says. Isaiah, Yeshayahu 49, 1 through 6, and continuing. Listen to me, you islands. Okay, have you ever looked at the globe and the map? Do you see that North America, Central America, and South America are basically one giant island? Because you have surrounded completely by ocean. I just wanted you to make that point out. But think about this. Think beyond just, a little ways off the coast, 20 miles off the coast of Israel today proper. And think more of islands of the sea and think bigger picture outside the box, because you are going to be outside the box by the end of the day with these prophecies. Hear this, you distant nations. Before I was born, Yahweh called me. From my birth, He has made mention of my name. He made my mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of His hand, He hid me. He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in His quiver. He said to me, You are my servant, Israel, in whom I will display my splendor. He's talking about Mashiach. But I said, I have labored for no purpose. I have spent my strength in vain and for nothing. Yet what is due me is in Yahweh's hand, and my reward is with my Elohim. And now Yahweh says, He who formed me in the womb to be His servant, to bring Jacob back to Him, and the 12 sons, all the descendants of Jacob. Remember we talked about Hebrew thinking versus Greek thinking, Western mindset thinking. Jacob, and all of Jacob is him and every descendant of Jacob. Back to Him, and gather Israel to Himself. So Israel and Jacob are the same person as He got renamed. You got to remember when He struggled with the messenger. So to bring back, he formed me in the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob back to him and gather Israel to himself. For I am honored in the eyes of Yahweh, and my Elohim has been my strength. He says, speaking of Yahweh, it is too small a thing for you to be my servant, to restore the tribes of Israel, of Jacob, and bring back those of Israel. It's too small a thing that I have kept. Remember, he's going to keep watch over Israel and Jacob and the descendants. I will also make you a light for the Gentiles, for the nations, that you may bring my salvation to the ends of the earth. So he wants to bring in everybody into this. Everybody into this. Prisoners in cistern that has no water in it. Yehuda is the bow and Ephraim is its arrow. We'll talk about what Ephraim and Judah are here shortly. Basically, we're talking about the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom there. The two or three tribes in the southern kingdom and the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom. Zechariah, Zechariah 9 through 13 and continuing. Rejoice with all your heart, daughter of Zion. This is the prophecy. Shout out loud, daughter of Jerusalem. Look, your king is coming to you. He is righteous. He is victorious. Yet he is humble. He's riding on a donkey. Yes, a lowly donkey's colt. I will banish chariots from Ephraim, from the northern kingdom, and war horses from Jerusalem. The warrior's bow will be banished, and he will proclaim peace to the nations. He will rule from sea to sea and from the Euphrates River to the ends of the earth. Also, you, by the blood of your covenant, I release your prisoners from the dungeon, the cistern that has no water in it. Remember, we talked about that was equated to pit or death and exile. Okay? Return to the stronghold, you prisoners, with hope. So come back to the land, basically saying. This day I declare to you that I will grant you double reparation, for I have bent Yehuda as my bow and made Ephraim its arrow. And I will rouse your sons, Zion, and make you like a warrior's sword against your sons, Greece. Yahweh Sebaot is returning and will live in Jerusalem. Very, very specific here. He will save his people and bring them back from the east and the west. And which people? The Jewish people? Nah, all his people, okay? All his people. Referred to as the remnant. Here's the prophecy, Zechariah 8, 1 through 8, and continuing. A message came from Yahweh Sebaot, Yahweh of hosts. Yahweh of hosts says, I am extremely jealous on Zion's behalf, and I am jealous for her with great fury. Yahweh says, I am returning to Zion, and I will live in Jerusalem. This is what Yahweh says. Not somebody else or some prophecy preacher or whatever. Then Jerusalem will be called Truth City, Yahweh Sebaot's mountain, and the mountain of the Holy One. Yahweh Sebaot says, old men and old women will once again sit in the open places of Jerusalem, each one with a cane in his hand because of their great age. The city's open places will be full of boys and girls playing there. Yahweh Sebaot says, this may seem amazing to the survivors in those days, but it must also seem amazing to me, says Yahweh Sebaot. Yahweh Sebaot says, I will save my people from lands east and west, and I will bring them back, and they will live in Jerusalem. They will be my people, and I will be their Elohim with faithfulness and justice. Continuing on, Yahweh Sebaot says, take courage, you who are hearing only now in these days these words spoken by the prophets when the foundation was being laid for rebuilding the temple, the house of Yahweh Sebaot. Let me read that again, because I really think he's talking to us right now today. Yahweh Sebaot says, this is the same prophecy continuing on here, take courage, you who are hearing only now in these days these words spoken by the prophets when the foundation was being laid for rebuilding the temple, the house of Yahweh Sebaot. For prior to that time there were wages neither for people nor animals. Moreover, it was unsafe for anyone to go out or come in because of the enemy. For I set all people against each against the other. Doesn't that sound like today? But from now on, I will not treat the remnant of this people as I did before, says Yahweh Sebaot. Now they will sow in peace. The vine will give its fruit. The ground will produce its yield. The sky will give its dew. And I will cause the remnant of this people to possess all these things. Here he distinguishes between the house of Yehuda and the house of Israel, specifics. He will save both, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Grab hold of the cloak of Yehudi, a Jew, because Elohim is with him. You heard that scripture. Here it is, Zechariah 8, continuing on, verse 13 through 19, same prophecy. House of Yehuda, southern kingdom, and house of Israel, northern kingdom. Just as you were formerly a curse among the nations, so now I will save you, and you will be a blessing. Don't be afraid, but take courage, for Yahweh Sebaot says, just as I resolved to do you harm when your forefathers provoked me, Yahweh says, Sebaot says, and I did not relent, so now I resolve to do good to Jerusalem and to the house of Yehuda. Don't be afraid. So the southern kingdom. Don't be afraid. These are the things you are to do. Speak the truth to each other. In your courts, administer justice that is true and conducive to peace. Don't plot harm against each other, and don't love perjury or lying, basically. For all these things I hate, says Yahweh. This word of Yahweh Sebaot came to me. Yahweh Sebaot says, the fast days of the 4th, 5th, 7th, and 10th months are to become times of joy, gladness, and cheer for the house of Yehuda. Therefore, love, truth, and peace. Well, what's the fast of the 7th month? That's Yom Kippur. And that says there will be times will become times of joy, gladness, and cheer for the house of Yehuda. Therefore, love, truth, and peace. Continuing on, Yahweh Sebaot says, in the future, peoples and inhabitants of many cities will come. The inhabitants of one city will travel to another and say, we must go to ask Yahweh's favor and consult Yahweh Sebaot. I'll go too. Yes, many peoples and powerful nations will come to consult Yahweh Sebaot in Jerusalem and to ask Yahweh's favor. They're coming to Jerusalem there to do that. Yahweh Sebaot says, when that time comes, 10 men will take hold, speaking all the languages of the nations. In other words, they'll be from every nation and tribe and tongue. And will grab a hold of the cloak of a Jew and say, we want to go with you because we have heard Elohim is with you. He reverses the exile of his people, Israel, and reverses the exile of his people, Yehuda. He will return us to Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, from far away, and our offspring, descendants, from their country of exile. Do you feel far away today from Israel? Jeremiah 30. And we're going to read 2 chapters here straight in a row. So hang in there and buckle your seatbelt. Jeremiah 30, 1 through 7. This word of Yahweh, Jeremiah from Yahweh, from Jeremiah basically, from Yahweh, he says to say this. This the prophecy begins. He goes for 2 chapters long. This is what Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, says. Write all the words I have spoken to you in a scroll. For the day is coming, says Yahweh, when I will reverse the exile of my people Israel, the northern kingdom, that's scattered to the ends of the earth, and Yehuda, Judah, says Yahweh. I will cause them to return to the land I gave their ancestors, and they will take possession of it. I will cause them to return to the land I gave their ancestors, and they will take possession of it. Not just the Jews, not just the tribe of Judah, but also the Benjamites, the Levites, also the 10 northern tribes, all 12, 13 tribes. Okay, because Levi didn't get an inheritance in land. They'd be the 13th if they did. But they're the priests and the Levites, so you guys know that. These are the words Yahweh spoke concerning Israel and Yehuda. Here is what Yahweh says. We have heard a cry of terror. Interesting. Of fear and not peace. Ask now and see, can men give birth to children? Why then do I see all the men with their hands on their stomachs like women in labor, with every face turned pale? How dreadful that day will be. There has never been one like it. A time of trouble for Yaakov, for Jacob, for Israel, but out of it he will be saved. Continuing, on that day, remember when we said on that day, it's talking about the day of the Lord, the day of Yah. The day of Yahweh. Anytime you see reference to on that day or in that day, that is specifically speaking on the day of Yahweh. And we're going to see many references to that in the prophecies coming up. On that day, says Yahweh, Sebaot, I will break the yoke off your neck. I will snap your chains. Foreigners will no longer enslave him. Instead, they will serve Yahweh their Elohim and David their king, whom I will raise up for them. So don't be afraid, Yaakov my servant, Jacob my servant, or Israel my servant, says Yahweh, or be alarmed, Israel. See, he repeats himself. This is a mini parallelism right in the same verse. He says, don't be afraid, Yaakov my servant, and then he says Yahweh. And it says the same thing again, or using different words, or be alarmed, Israel, because that's both of the same words saying the same thing. For I will return you from far away. What does far away mean? We get into that in some other teachings and stuff. But far away basically is referring to the northern kingdom, which is cast far away. The southern kingdom, Judah, is near. It's near. They're closer. But far away means like that, far away, in the U.S., in Asia, and in China, and to Japan, and to the South America, and so on and so forth. But it's a specific reference to the people who are far away is always referring to the northern kingdom. Those who are near is the southern kingdom. For I will return you from far away, and your offspring from their country of exile. Are you in exile today? Yaakov, Jacob, Israel will again be quiet, at rest, and no one will make him afraid. For I am with you to save you, says Yahweh. I will finish off all the nations where I have scattered you. You feel scattered? However, you I will not finish off, but will only discipline you only as you deserve. I will not completely destroy you, for here's what Yahweh says. Your wound is past healing, your injury most severe. No one thinks your wound can be bandaged. You have no medicines that can heal you. So basically saying you're cast out, you've been exiled for what is it, 2,700 years or something like that, roughly. But Yahweh has some plan here. In the Akarit Hayamim, at the end of days in Hebrew, then you will understand. This is what the next set of verses is going to say. Continue on the same prophecy. All your friends have forgotten you. And this is what the people are saying about the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes. The people who joined themselves to them, the foreigners that have joined to them. They no longer seek you out. I have struck you down as an enemy would punish you as a cruel man would, because of your great wickedness, because of your many sins. This is why we were exiled. Why cry that your wound and pain are past healing? I have done these things to you because of your great wickedness, because of your many sins. But all who devour you will be devoured. All your enemies will go into exile. Those who plunder you will be plundered. Those who pillage you will be pillaged. For I will restore your health. I will heal you of your wounds, says Yahweh, because they called you an outcast, Zion, with no one who cares about her. Thus says Yahweh, I will return Yaakov's or Israel's captives to their tents. I will take pity on his dwellings. Cities will rebuild on their own tells, with palaces where they're supposed to be. Tells, by the way, anybody not know what tell means? Raise your hand. Okay. The tell is referring to its archaeological term these days. Basically, it means that where a place where an ancient city was built, and then it was destroyed. But the way they rebuilt, they did not have bulldozers and heavy earth-moving equipment stuff, so they just come and pile dirt over it and everything, and pile rocks and stuff into the place where the destruction was, and then they'd make it, level it out, and then they would build a city on top of that. And then when that one was destroyed years later, then they would build the same thing would happen, and they keep it until you have a man-made hill, looks like. But what it is, archaeological evidence, you would dig down layer after layer after layer, city after city. You go back in time, and that's what a tell is. So cities will be rebuilt on their own tells. So Megiddo, it would be rebuilt, for example. It's a tell Megiddo, or Har Megiddo, where we get Armageddon. It means mountain of Megiddo. That's what it really means. But anyway, so this is an example of it, with palaces where they're supposed to be. So they're going to rebuild this. Continuing on. From them will come thanksgiving and the sound of people celebrating. I will increase them. They will not be decreased. I will honor them. They will not be despised. Their children will be as they used to be. Their community confirmed in my presence. I will punish everyone who oppresses them. This is what Yahweh is going to do for us. Their leader will be one of their own. Their ruler will come from among them. Mashiach. I will cause him to come close and let him approach me. For otherwise, who would guarantee his heart enough to approach me, says Yahweh. You will be my people. and I will be your Elohim. Recognize that? That's from Hosea, prophecy there. You will be my people, and I will be your Elohim. Look, the storm of Yahweh bursting out. Here we're talking about the day of Yahweh now. The storm of Yahweh bursting out in fury, a sweeping storm whirling down from the heads of the wicked. Yahweh's fierce anger will not abate until he accomplishes his purpose in his heart. In the Akarit Hayamim, you will understand. In the end of days, you will understand what he's talking about whenever the day of Yahweh is happening all around you. Elohim of all the tribes of Israel, Ami, my people. Yahweh saved his people, the remnant of Israel. He gathered from the north and far ends of the earth. We will come weeping and praying as he brings us back. He is a father to Israel, and Ephraim is his firstborn son. So Israel and Ephraim, the same thing. Father and firstborn son. Ephraim is a father to Israel, and Ephraim is his firstborn son. And what does it mean? Ephraim was the firstborn. Ephraim was the secondborn. It was of Jacob. But Yahweh is speaking. He's the firstborn, the one who hears the firstborn. Let's not get into that teaching, but let me just say this. It's those whose ear is open to Torah, to his instructions, to his word, to his voice first. And that's who is his firstborn son. So he's in Scripture, he's saying in this verse that we're going to read, he is the father to Israel, and Ephraim is his firstborn son. He was the one that got the double portion blessings. He who scattered Israel is gathering us. It's actually split between Judah and Er, but anyway, we'll go into that some other time. He who scattered Israel is gathering us. So he scattered us, and he scattered us. Jezreel is the word in Hebrew. And it's as scattered as seed sown. So when he scattered us, he didn't just scatter us randomly. He scattered us and he planted us as a farmer would sow seed, scattering across the ground. This is what Yahweh did. He who scattered Israel is gathering us back now. It's harvest time. Starting to get that idea. When that time comes, okay, in that day, on that day, okay, we're talking about the day of Yahweh. Says Yahweh, I will be the Elohim of all the clans, all the tribes of Israel, and they will be my people. Here's what Yahweh says. The people escaping the sword found favor in the desert. I have brought Israel to its rest. From a distance Yahweh appeared to me, saying, I love you with an everlasting love. This is why in my grace I draw you to me. Once again I will build you, and you will be rebuilt, Virgin of Israel. Once again, equipped with your tambourines, you will go out and dance with the merrymakers. Once again you will plant vineyards on the hills of Shomron, or Samaria, or there where Moshe and Leah Goldsmith are. And those who doing the planting will have the use of its fruit. For a day will come when the watchman on Mount Ephraim will call, come, let's go up to Zion, to Yahweh our Elohim. Okay. Continuing, for here's what Yahweh says. Sing with joy for Yaakov, for Jacob, for Israel, for the chief of the nations. Proclaim your praise and say, Yahweh, you have saved your people, the remnant of Israel. The remnant of Israel. Who are you? The remnant of the northern kingdom. That's what it's talking about. Look, I am bringing from the land in the north, gathering them from the far ends of the earth. Among them are the blind and lame, women with children, women in labor, altogether a vast throng returning here. They will come. I should say, we will come. They will come weeping and praying as I bring them back. I will lead them by streams of water on smooth paths, so that they won't stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn son. Nations, hear the word of Yahweh. Proclaim it in the coastlands, far away. Say, he who scattered Israel is gathering him, guarding him like a shepherd his flock. The northern kingdom. Your children will return to their own territory. This is the same prophecy continuing on. Ephraim, for Yahweh has ransomed, verses Jeremiah 31 now, 11 through 15. Did I get that right? Okay. For Yahweh has ransomed Yaakov, redeemed him from hands too strong for him. They will come and sing on the heights of Zion. streaming to the goodness of Yahweh, to the grain, the wine, the olive oil, the young of the flock, and the herd. They themselves will be like a well-watered garden, never to languish again. Then the virgin will dance for joy, young men and old men together, for I will turn their mourning into joy, comfort, and gladden them from after their sorrow. I will give the Kohanim, the priests, their fill of rich food, and my people will be satisfied with my bounty, says Yahweh. This is what Yahweh says. A voice is heard in Ramah, lamenting and bitter weeping. It is Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children, because they are no longer alive. This is what Yahweh says. Stop your weeping and dry your eyes, for your work will be rewarded, says Yahweh. Then they will return from the enemy's land. So there is hope for your future, says Yahweh. Your children will return to their own territory. That means us, the descendants. I hear Ephraim bemoaning himself. You disciplined me, and I took your discipline like a young ox, not used to a yoke. Let me return, and I will return, for you are Yahweh, my Elohim. Yes, I turned away, but later I repented when I had been made to understand. I struck my thigh in shame and remorse, bearing the weight of the disgrace acquired when I was young. Isn't Ephraim my very dear son, a child who delights in me so? This is Yahweh speaking here. I speak about him all the time. I can't help but recall him to mind. In some, I deeply yearn for him. I surely will show him favor, says Yahweh, the northern kingdom, Ephraim, those attached to him. He beckons us to come back, Virgin Israel, to these cities of yours, house of Israel and house of Yehudah. Continuing, Jeremiah 31, 21 through 25. Set up road signs, erect guideposts, pay attention to the highway, the path on which you traveled. Come back, Virgin Israel, come back, Virgin Northern Kingdom, is saying. Come back to these cities of yours. How long will you hesitate, you unruly daughter? For Yahweh has created something new on earth, a woman with the strength of a man. Here is what Yahweh Sabaoth, the Elohim of Israel, says. This expression will be used again in the land of Yehudah and its cities that after I have returned their exiles. May Yahweh bless you, home of justice, holy mountain. In it will live together Yehudah, the southern kingdom, and all its cities, the farmer and those who lead the flocks. For I have satisfied the weary and filled the needs of all in distress. At this point, I woke up and I looked around. This is Jeremiah 31, 26 through 30, continuing. But I had enjoyed my sleep. And he woke up and he says, here the days are coming, says Yahweh. The prophecy continues. When I will sow the house of Israel, the northern kingdom, and the house of Yehudah, the southern kingdom, with the seed of humans and seed of animals. At that time, just as I used to watch over them with the intent to uproot, break down, overthrow, destroy, and do harm, so then now I will watch over them to build and plant, says Yahweh. When those days come, they will no longer say, the fathers have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. Rather, each will die for his own sin. Everyone who eats sour grapes, his own teeth will be set on edge. Now let's talk about new versus renewed covenant. We talk about the new covenant and the renewed covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. I have the word new because that's what's used in your English Bibles, but the word, if you go back to the root meaning of the word, it means renewed. And the new covenant, the Brit Hadashah we talk about, it's the Chadash. Okay? That means renewed. The root meaning of it means renewed. And how do I explain that? Chadash, or the renewed covenant, not the new covenant, the New Testament, the new covenant what I'm talking about here. The renewed covenant, or the renewed testament, is like this. The English word uses new, but when we say, hey, it's a new moon day, there's a new moon out there, it's not talking about a brand new moon that never existed before. We're talking about the same moon. It's just renewing itself. We're talking about the same covenant that was issued before. The same covenant, and it's being renewed. And who's renewing it? The Father himself. I'm renewing it with the younger generation, the descendants, and renewing it with you today, Mia. Okay, so today it says, renewed covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. He's renewing his covenant with the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Not a covenant written on stony hearts, but a covenant written on a heart of flesh. The offspring or the descendants of Israel are a nation again forever. Forever, it says, Scripture says. Okay, so before I go into this, I have to tell my story. My story is that am I getting on here? All right. The story is that I was talking to a doctor friend of mine, and had gone in for I won't even tell you what kind of doctor it was, but anyway, I was talking to him, and I said, he said, well, I'm a New Covenant believer. You know, he's asking me about the tzitzit and all the strings. He thought I was Jewish or whatever, I guess. Anyway, so he had a Jewish last name sounding, but he said, I'm a New Covenant believer. You know, I believe in the New Covenant. You know, he's big, you know, on the charismatic and all this, you know, and the New Covenant, maybe the Word Church, or, you know, now I'm not saying cutting those down, but I was just saying, I was just thinking, you know, whenever he was doing this, he was saying, I'm a New Covenant believer. I believe in, you know, all this and things like that. And I know exactly where he's coming from. I've been there. But I got home, I looked up this verse to see where he was getting this, Jeremiah 31:31. We're about to read it. And what did it say? And here's what it said. Here the days are coming, says Yahweh. Jeremiah 31 through 34 on this slide. Here the days are coming, says Yahweh, when I will make a renewed covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. What happened to the word churches and the charismatic churches? No, it's making it renewed covenant. They're renewing the covenant, and who's he doing it with? The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So which one are you? I went back and asked him. And let's call him Sam for the purposes of this recording. But so I asked him, I confronted him. I said, well, I read the verse to him. I said, here I'm making the days are coming, says Yahweh, I'll make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. And he responded, I said, well, which one are you, the house of Yehudah or the house of Israel? Because that's who the new covenant is made with, the renewed covenant he claimed to be a part of. And he said, the house of Sam. And, you know, he's trying to be funny and everything like that. But, you know, it really is prideful. That the pride in his heart came out in the joke that he made and everything, because he's establishing his own self. You know, I'm making my own religion, my own tribe, my own. You know, I make my own covenant up. I don't know what he was saying, but anyway, that's how it came across. So it really wasn't. You know, that was basically the end of the conversation at that point. But anyway, so. It will not be, so let's just start this again here. Here the days are coming. Jeremiah 31:31 says Yahweh. Says Yahweh. When I will make a renewed covenant with the house of Israel, the northern kingdom, and with the house of Yehudah, the southern kingdom. It will not be like the covenant I made with their fathers on the day I took them by their hand and brought them out of the land of Egypt, because they, for their part, violated my covenant, even though I, for my part, was a husband to them, says Yahweh. For this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days. And this is how he's going to say it's going to be different when he renews the covenant. Says Yahweh, I will put my Torah within them and write it on their hearts. I will be their Elohim, and they will be my people. No longer will any of them teach his fellow community member or his brother, know Yahweh. For all will know me, from the least to the greatest, because I will forgive their wickednesses and remember their sins no more. Once again, I'd say this is the time when Yahweh says that I'm going to take away that tendency, that propensity to sin that's in all of us. That even though we're believers in Messiah Yeshua, and we all still have within us that he did not remove that tendency or propensity to sin. And I've thought about this many times, and I've said it many times, but I'll say it again, is that I've wondered why didn't he do that? Wouldn't it make it so much life easier if we just believe in Messiah and you pray the prayer and you ask Messiah to come into your heart and be your master and Lord and King and ruler over your life, and you follow and live for him and obey his instructions and his Torah, okay? And it would be so much easier if we didn't have to have that tendency to mess up. But we all still have it today, every one of us sitting here. But yet every day is a day that he can remove that propensity or tendency to sin. And he does it little by little by little by little as you live your life and you live this walk. But why did he say this? Why is he going to, and I thought, why is he going to wait until the day of Yahweh to do this? Why is he going to wait until this day when he brings us back to the land? Why is he going to wait for all this? Because he wants us to know that he did it. That he's the one that removed. There wasn't anything we did in our own strength, our own power. Every one of us will know that propensity or that tendency to sin in our lives is removed, and it was removed by him on that day. I will forgive their wickednesses and remember their sins no more. This is what Yahweh says, continuing on, verse 35 through 40. Who gives the sun his light for the day, who ordained the laws for the moon and stars to provide light for the night, who stirs up the sea until its waves roar. Yahweh Sevaot is his name, Yahweh of hosts. If these laws leave my presence, says Yahweh, then the offspring of Israel will stop being a nation in my presence forever. In other words, if the sea stops making waves that roar, and the stars don't provide light at night, and the moon and the laws ordained for the day and the sun stop giving their light and all that, then he'll stop bringing, the offspring of Israel will stop being a nation in his presence forever. It ain't going to happen, people. Even in the renewed new earth, heavens and new earth, they're still going to be shining on all this stuff. And Yahweh will be the glory in his presence. Anyway, let's go on. That's another teaching. This is what Yahweh says. If the sky above can be measured and the foundations of the earth can be fathomed, then I'll reject all the offspring of Israel for all they have done, says Yahweh. So he's saying, if you can tell me where the edge of the universe is, even the solar system even is just bad enough, but the universe with all the galaxies out there and the billions and billions of stars, and they said not only is it expanding, but it's getting faster as it expands, expanding at an even faster rate than it did centuries and centuries and millennia ago. Okay, so they can't measure it. They can't measure the fathoms. The foundations of the earth can't be fathomed. Then I will reject. I mean, we try to do that in the oil business, right, Dean? But they can't be fathomed. The depths of the earth and stuff. He says, if that could happen, if they could measure the sky and foundations of the earth could be fathomed, then I will reject the offspring of Israel for all that they have done, says Yahweh. It ain't going to happen. Look. The days are coming, says Yahweh, when the city will be rebuilt for Yahweh from the tower of Haniel, or the grace of Elohim, to the corner gate. The measuring line will be stretched straight to Garav Hill, then turn to Goah. The whole valley of corpses and ashes, including those on the fields as far as the Vadi Kidron, the valley of the Kidron Valley, you guys know about that, and to the corner gate, to the corner of the horse gate to the east, will be separated out for Yahweh. It will never be uprooted or destroyed again. He's talking about the dimensions of the city and the temple and all that stuff. So they'll never be uprooted or destroyed again. Thus says Yahweh, call out to me and I'll answer you. I will tell you great things, hidden things of which you are unaware.